And we welcome you to Dodger Poke Report for another edition of the Dodgers Down on the Farm podcast. Each and every week, Dodger Poke is going to release a new edition for all four affiliates of the Los Angeles Dodgers: AAA Oklahoma City, AA Tulsa, High A Great Lakes, and Low A Rancho Cucamonga. This podcast is specifically designated for AA Tulsa, so let's not waste any time and let's talk Drillers baseball. First thing you got to talk about is easily the most dramatic moment in all of the minor league system for the Dodgers last week, and that is the walk-off from Cody Hosey Saturday night. It does not get any more dramatic than being down one run in extra innings, bottom of the 10th inning. There were two outs, bases loaded, you're down a run and you're at the plate. If you get out, your team loses. If you get a base hit, your team wins. And guess what Cody Hosey did? He deposits a base hit, walk-off to right field, two-run score, and the Drillers win. So that was a very exciting moment. The walk-off from Cody Hosey, there you see him, Saturday night. Brandon Lewis is a hometown boy from the LA area that went to community college out of high school at LA Pierce. He then transferred to UC Irvine. So playing in the Dodgers system is a dream come true for him. Quite frankly, 2022, he struggled quite a bit. His average has been below 200, but nothing to be concerned with. You know, as you look at baseball being a marathon, over 500 at bats, everything will work itself out. And he had two hits Sunday, and much like a scorer in basketball that has missed a few shots, they just need to see that ball go through the hoop, whether it be a layup or a free throw. I think these two hits are going to do that for Brandon Lewis. Just need to see a couple of hits hit the outfield grass and start feeling good about that. Hit one square off the middle of the barrel, start feeling better about things. And the thing about him is last year with High A Great Lakes, he led the entire organization in home runs per at bat at 30. He hits the ball, as we see in this picture here, to the opposite field very well. He has the ability as a hitter to have a tremendous mix between being able to hit the ball to the opposite field, having a good average, and then combining that with his power numbers. So I think Brandon Lewis, whenever you look at the end of this year, his numbers will be right back up there where you expect him to. Just let the marathon of baseball take place. And great hitter, great young hitter in the organization. Exciting young corner infielder for the Dodgers, Brandon Lewis. Justin Yurchek, much like Brandon Lewis, has gotten off to somewhat of a slow start in 2022, but just like Brandon Lewis, no reason to be concerned about Justin Yurchek. If you go back to last year, a year in which he hit .365 for the season, in the month of May, he hit .095. So again, baseball is a marathon. Let the 500 at-bats take place, and you'll see just how good of a hitter Justin Yurchek is. Now, obviously, .365 would have been good enough last year to win the AA Central Hitting Championship, but he did not have enough at-bats to qualify because he came up from High A Great Lakes. So not all of his at-bats came in AA last year. So although he did hit .365, Miguel Vargas actually was a AA hitting Central champion with a .316 average. But this young man, Justin Yurchek, out of Binghamton, can hit. He can, and once he gets going, and he will, he hit .365 last year. He had 3 hits Sunday. Hopefully that springboards him into a very good end of May and then beginning of June as he continues to play for the AA Tulsa Drillers. Jordan Leisure is another power arm, a big body too, for the Dodgers in their bullpen efforts. And the other night, the other day, Sunday, this is from his performance. He was hitting 95, 96, and then touched 97 on a couple of occasions. So he's getting his arm loose. The Tulsa Drillers lead the entire minor leagues in average velocity by their pitchers. The average velocity of the Tulsa Drillers pitching is 94.4 miles an hour, and Jordan Leisure adds to that with his 95, 96, sometimes 97 mile an hour fastball. He mixes that with the changeup and the slider. As you see, the big fastball in that video, there's the four-seam riding up in the strike zone. So Jordan Leisure had a very good outing. He threw up a 0. There's a slider. He threw up a 0 in his one inning of action Sunday and looked very good with the big fastball. I think very few people would argue with you if you said Jacob Amaya is one of the best defensive shortstops in the league, if not the best defensive shortstop in the entire Los Angeles Dodgers organization. There is his latest web gem, if you will, on a pop-up that he kind of had to hug the wall and hug the screen over behind third base. So Jacob Amaya leads the team in OPS. He has a very high batting average in the 290s, having a great year. We've talked about it many different times, but in the past he's hit for average and on base percentage than at other times he's hit for power. Never been able to put those two together until this year. So he's combined all of that offensively with his elite defense. He is an unquestioned leader on the field. He affects his teammates in a positive way around him. He demands that they play as hard and as well as he does. So Jacob Amaya is just a wonderful young prospect. He's from the LA area. He went to South Hills High School in the West Covina area. That program at South Hills has produced over 30 professional baseball players, multiple major leaguers. His grandpa Frank played with the Dodgers in the 50s as well. So this is a young man that was made to play for the Dodgers, Mr. Jacob Amaya. Cody Hosey is healthy in 2022. I've said it about 16 times now, I think, this year, and he is showing it. In the last 16 games, he has raised his batting average by 81 points. And just ask anybody in the organization what kind of defense he plays, and they'll tell you that there are very few people that walk on earth that can play third base better than Cody Hosey, the first-round draft pick out of Tulane. That a lot of people are like, well, what's going on with Cody Hosey after his 2021? And I tried to explain to people, when you have an oblique injury and you hit the baseball like he does, it's impossible to come over. He tried to play through it, or to get over, I should say. He tried to play through it at the end of 2021 when he finally came back off of that oblique. It just wasn't the same, so you kind of figured coming into 2022, he got some good at-bats in the Arizona Fall League after the season last year, but you kind of figured coming into 2022 this was set up for him to show everybody what he's capable of, and he is starting to do that. Bobby Miller is a very, very, very hot name ever since he struck out Shohei Ohtani, I should say, in spring training, on the big field, and everybody got to see the big 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He actually hit 101 the other night in Tulsa. His stats didn't look as good as he deserved because he left the game with two runners on that both came in to score. But when you look at what he did, he went into the seventh inning. 5 out of his 6 innings that he finished were 1-2-3 innings. So he is very good. He is very dominant, and he was also very efficient. He is flashing that big 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He had the big changeup that was in the low 80s. He had the slider that was in the upper 80s. And so, he has a big variant. Not only does he throw hard, he has variance between his fastball and his secondaries. And for the most part, he throws a lot of strikes. So Bobby Miller showed Saturday night for 2 Saturday nights in a row. The Saturday before that, he outdueled Jack Leiter in Tulsa. So Bobby Miller is made for the prime time, that big fastball. He loves it. He's very confident, and he showed out Saturday night. You can't do a Tulsa Drillers podcast and not talk about James Outman. And the thing about him, he's just so good at everything. There's nothing on a baseball field that he is not good at. He can hit for average. He can hit for power. He's an elite defender. He can play every position in the outfield. As far as an outfielder goes, he has a great work process. So when you put the whole total package together at what James Outman is, just when you put all the things that he does well on a baseball field, it comes out as a great baseball player, which he is. He is a hot topic name. People learned that name towards the end of 2021. They learned that name in spring training this year when he made a couple of great catches and hit the ball very well. So James Outman continues to play very well at AA Tulsa. I do think he will get promoted to Oklahoma City sometime this year, and I think he will continue to be a riser in this organization because his skills are legit, they're real, and they are very, very good. Jose Martinez might be the most underrated pitcher in the organization. When you talk about the Tulsa Drillers, you have Clayton Beekman, you have Bobby Miller, and you have all these guys, Gavin Stone, and all the big names that the Drillers have. And sometimes you forget that you have a guy named Jose Martinez who's a really good pitcher that was 95-96 the other day with the fastball and featured the big slider and the changeup. His last 2 outings have been very good for him. He threw up blanks the other day in his 4 innings. He had that good slider that you saw in that video get underneath the left-handed hitters. He has the good fade or run to the arm side to his fastball that's 95-96. There's the 89-mile-an-hour changeup, and then there's the 87-mile-an-hour slider. So you may not have heard the name Jose Martinez. He is a very underrated starting pitcher for the Tulsa Drillers, but he is very, very, very talented. There are very few people on earth that are hotter and have been hotter than Devin Mann. He was really hot in the Amarillo series. He loves hitting in Amarillo. We've talked about that to extent. The series last year to end 2021 that he had in Amarillo, where he had the 3 games in a row where he had multiple home runs. The 6-game series in Amarillo that the Drillers had last week, and then he continued that this week against Springfield, and he has been so hot that, as we said earlier in this podcast, he has his average all the way up to 306, and that leads the team in batting average. The thing about him is he has played everywhere on the field except for pitcher and catcher, and I mean that literally. He has played all 3 outfield positions. He's played third base, shortstop, second base, and first base. He's playing second base almost every day now since Michael Bush got promoted to AAA, and that second base position has opened up. Michael Bush and Miguel Vargas manned second base for the most part last year, and so whenever both of those guys now are up with Oklahoma City, that leaves that second base position open. Devin Mann has found a home there, and offensively he has been very good. 306 batting average again, which leads the Tulsa Drillers, which is something to say. If you can lead the Drillers in anything, that's quite a compliment because it is such a talented team. So Devin Mann is having a great 2022. Andy Pazos is an outfield prospect in the Dodgers organization that is touted by most people that you would talk to as an everyday outfielder in the Dodgers organization whenever he gets up to LA. Last year, he led the minor leagues in the Dodgers system with 31 home runs. The thing about it is last year, he hit almost twice as many fly balls as he did ground balls, and this year that has changed. His ground ball to fly ball ratio, well, last time I checked about 2 weeks ago, was about 50-50. So I don't know this for a fact, but I think he has intentionally tried to reduce a little bit of the loft that he had last year because he hit a lot of fly balls. But again, 31 home runs a year ago. He is a very good outfielder. Talked to Austin Chubb about him a couple months ago. They did play him in all 3 outfield positions, but I think he does profile as a major league right fielder. So Andy Pazos has the big arm. He has the big bat. He has a lot of power with the 31 home runs that he hit last year. He is projected to be an everyday outfielder in the Dodgers organization or for the Dodgers. So this is a very promising and exciting young prospect, Andy Pazos. Landon Knack is another power arm that the Dodgers have out of East Tennessee State University, and his fastball the other day was on point. He reached 97 with it. You can see the off speed at 83, and he was just absolutely mesmerizing in his performance. There's that big slider at 88 that just dives and tumbles into the dirt. Very good secondary for Landon Knack, the big fastball. Look at that big curveball at 80 that just completely falls off the table, 100% falls off the table to pair with that 97 mile-an-hour fastball that you just saw. So 95 to 97 on the fastball with the big breaking ball that falls off the table, the big changeup. A lot of stuff for the East Tennessee State grad, Landon Knack, who is going to having a very good 2022. He's one of those guys along with Ryan Pepio, Andre Jackson, Bobby Miller, that group of pitchers, Michael Grove, Gus Varland, that, in that trade with Trey Turner and Max Scherzer last year, the Dodgers gave up Gerardo Carrillo, they gave up Josiah Gray, they gave up Keibert Ruiz, and I think the Dodgers felt like they could give up Carrillo and Gray because they had the next man up mentality with guys like Landon Knack, with guys like Ryan Pepio, with guys like Bobby Miller, where they could absorb those losses. And so Landon Knack, a very, very, very exciting power pitcher. As you see that just really dirty curveball or slider, whatever he calls it. Let's just call it a breaking ball. There's the one that falls off the table. So Landon Knack, very exciting young power pitching prospect in the organization at AA Tulsa. Ryan Ward is one of my favorite young hitters in the entire organization if I push play here. He has 13 home runs, which leads Tulsa. He's actually tied for the organizational lead for the minor leagues with Johnny DeLuca with those 13 home runs. He also leads Tulsa in RBIs. This is a young man that can absolutely hit. He hit over 400 for his sophomore season at Bryant. He's the only Bulldog ever to do that. He comes from a place in Millbury, Massachusetts. He was a Wooly where he graduated with less than 100 kids in his graduating class. So he has an awesome story, a small-town kid from Massachusetts with a big, big bat. Ryan Ward continues to impress with the AA Tulsa Drillers, one of my favorite young hitters in the organization. Big right-handed reliever Nick Robertson is one of my favorite relievers in the organization out of James Madison, and the reason is easy power. Somebody taught him a very easy motion to deliver a lot of velo at not very much of a cost to his body, meaning that that he doesn't have to work all that hard to get to the 90. Well, he's 94 to 96. He can bump 97, maybe 98 with a little bit of extra adrenaline behind a big crowd or something like that. But he has the big fastball, he has the slider, he has the changeup, and he has the easy power. And another thing, there you see that changeup that hops back over the plate with that arm side fade. Another thing that I'm really high on Robertson about is I think he has a tremendous amount of versatility. He does not have to be stuck in any one role. I think he could be anywhere from a closer to a middle relief guy that could throw 2, maybe 3 innings, to even a starter or an opener. You know, he did open 2 games in 2021 where he went 2 innings in both of those, but I think he could do even more than that. I think he could be even more of an opener. I think you could ask him, you know, in a playoff setting or you know, maybe a bullpen game to go give you 3, maybe 4, and even maybe 5 innings if you needed to. I saw him throw 3 innings in Amarillo last year, and he made it look really, really easy. So I think combined between the big 94 to 96, sometimes 97-hour fastball, the hopping changeup, and the slider that he throws, when you add that to the versatility that he brings to the organization, I think this is a young man that plugs in somewhere within LA in the bullpen with his versatility and is very productive. So Nick Robertson, I am very high on him. If you were to walk up to anybody that is kind of an insider in the organization and made the statement, hey, does Clayton Beeter, ask the question, does Clayton Beeter have some of the best stuff of any pitcher in the organization? I think you would get a unanimous 100% yes. His stuff is really, really good. He's coming off the Tommy John from Texas Tech, so he's going to get back to normal pitch counts this year, and I think as he does that and the weather warms up, you see the big looping curveball that he throws. There's that curveball that he can get to bite in the dirt. He has the big fastball. He's another power arm. He's very competitive. So I think this is a young man, as the summer goes on and his arm gets a little bit more looser and he gets an even bigger pitch count where he's able to get into the 5th, 6th, maybe even the 7th inning, I think you're going to see what he's capable of, and I think you're going to see him rise pretty fast as a pitching prospect in the organization because he has every metric. He has the big fastball. He has the big changeup. He has the big breaking ball. There's 96 with arm side run to it. He has all the metrics. He's very competitive. And again, he's another one of those Dodgers with a great process. He works very hard at it. He's a great person. So a very exciting young right-handed pitching prospect for the Dodgers, Clayton Beeter. If you want to know what a rock star in a baseball uniform looks like, just look on your screen. Gavin Stone, a young man that is from a small town, Lake City, Arkansas, that has always had a huge vision, and that is to pitch in the major leagues. And as long as he stays healthy, that is going to happen. This young man just recently got promoted to AA Tulsa from High A Great Lakes. He has 2 starts with Tulsa, and guess what? He's yet to give up a run. He has, you know, the big fastball that hit 98 at the end of last year, 95 right now, but as the summer goes on and his arm warms up, and, you know, like all of them, his velocity will continue to increase, and I think he'll be right back up there to 98. By the end of the year, there's that 85-mile-an-hour secondary with the big slider, and he considers his changeup, by the end of last year, he considered his changeup the best pitch he had, which when you're talking about the fastball, there's the slider at 86. His changeup is pretty wicked. It has a lot of tumble, a lot of fade to it. He's able to shape it a couple different ways in the sense that he's able to tumble and fade it out of the zone for swing and miss, and he's able to tumble and fade it into the zone for a get-me-over strike pitch. So Gavin Stone has a lot of stuff. He's very competitive. He threw a no-hitter in his last performance at the University of Central Arkansas in 2020 before COVID shut down their season, I should say. Very competitive, very likable young man. This guy is going to be an absolute rock star in Los Angeles when he makes it there. So I'm just super, super excited to watch this young man's career and follow it as he makes his way up to the major leagues. Last driller we're going to talk about is left-handed relief pitcher Jose Hernandez. Congratulations to him. Just recently got pulled up. As a matter of fact, he only has 1 performance so far in Tulsa, of which he threw 1 inning, and he went scoreless with that inning. But Jose Hernandez has the 95, 96, sometimes 97-hour fastball, as you see. He is a very, very, very good athlete. He was very effective at Great. Matter of fact, he was the saves leader in all of the Midwest League for Great Lakes with 8. So you can tell how successful he's been. There's the changeup. You've seen the slider. There's the slider again. And so you've seen all 3 of his pitches, the fastball, the changeup, the slider, and the reasons why he is so good and why he has been so effective with the 8 saves. So congratulations, Jose Hernandez, on getting moved up to AA, kind of like Mark Washington to AAA. Very, very, very well deserved, and he is going to continue to just move forward and do very good with AA Tulsa. I cannot wait to watch him in person on June 7th when I finally get to go work a Drillers game. I'm glad that you tuned in to another edition of the Dodger Pokes Down on the Farm podcast, and I hope that you log on to DodgerPokeReport.com or visit Dodger Poke on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. This is also going to become a podcast, so go to your podcast streaming service of your choice, search Dodger Poke, look for Down on the Farm, the podcast, and just click play. There's going to be 4 of them, one for AAA Oklahoma City, one for AA Tulsa, one for High A Great Lakes, and one for Low A Rancho Cucamonga. So find the one that you want or listen to all of them. We'd prefer you listen to all of them. And then don't forget to subscribe. That way, every time a new episode is dropped, you will get a notification and you'll never miss a thing from Dodger Poke. As always, I'm glad that you've tuned in, and go Dodgers.